Think back. Way back. To your youth. No, not your angsty teenage years. Let's just pretend those never happened. You're in kindergarten, about 4 or 5 years old, and you and your classmates are elated, nearly leaping out of your colorful plastic seats because unless you all just misheard at the same time, the teacher just made the surprise announcement you've been waiting for. Let's do some finger painting. Holy fucking shitballs, the amount of power contained in those 4 words is enough to bring Thanos to his knees in fear. The teacher then gives the go-ahead for your row to go put them on. That's right. You now know that this is not a drill. And you now know without a shadow of a doubt that this is really happening. As soon as you put on that stiff, musty, paint-splattered smock, you know this is real. The almighty Smock, in our youths it meant an adult had basically given you the green light to make a total and utter mess of yourself and everything around you. But that's okay, because somehow this ill-fitting and awkwardly rigid canvas apron would protect you. Good times. Good times. Anyway, none of that has anything to do with today's video, other than I got to thinking about my arts and crafts-filled youth as I went to write this. Today's video is about a different kind of smock. This kind of smock, to be exact. The Spyderco smock. Christ, how many times am I going to say smock? Based on the endlessly exciting and mayhap slightly delayed custom designed by yet another kind of smock, Kevin Smock. And if you have ever seen the custom, you will know that Spyderco really hit it out of the park with this one. Materials and tedious, laborious, man-hours aside, this is a near tit-for-tat duplicate of the custom. As far as looks go, this is very unlike most Spydercos we've all come to know and love. Straight lines everywhere, none of the traditional humps, lumps, and bumps that Spyderco has become known for. This is something different for sure. As far as materials go, from the factory, you do get exactly what's expected out of tie jump Spideys. The scales are the usual carbon fiber over G10 laminate, lick and stick stuff, and the blade steel here is S30V. And the pocket clip is the usual disappointing slab of polished steel. But right there is where the normalities end. This is a slim and straight line knife, not a humpy, bumpy lump fest. When closed, the blade tucks away into the handles just perfectly, allowing the Spidey hole to peek out just enough so it's easy to get a hold of. You get those 3 holes drilled straight through the scales and the polished stainless steel liners, an homage to the original Smock custom. Mine doesn't have those holes anymore because I apparently don't know how to leave well enough alone. Going over the profile, you've got like half a hexagon at the top around the pivot, and you've got an almost perfectly straight back spine on the handles. Straight lines, slim profile, you know I love it. Is this even really a Spyderco? And don't let the slim aesthetics fool you, this is a full-size slicer. And even though it feels smaller in the pocket than your traditional paramilitaries and other popular Spydercos, it is not a small knife by any means. You've got a beautifully ground satin finished 3.4-inch reverse Tonto and or sheep's foot style blade with a glorious scalpel thin hollow grind that comes about 50% of the way up the blade. And there's this oddly shaped but decent sized and perfectly functional finger choil, so you can get choked up just as far as you want. Grading the looks here has been difficult for me because it's a great looking knife. Very different, but to my eye great looking. But it's almost weird looking compared to what we're all so used to coming out of Spyderco. Like, if you swap the Spidey hole for thumb studs, it could have been made by any major knife manufacturer. But the looks right out of the box still get a 4 to 5 shiny gold stars. Or else would I have ever really spent the money on it? No. Now that we've got all that boring from the factory stuff out of the way, I'm going to tell you about my Spyderco Smock. The only things I haven't changed or replaced on my Smock are the stainless steel liners and the blade. Pretty much everything else has been swapped out for something that, to me at least, represents the looks and the lines on this knife a little bit better. You've got a deep carry titanium pocket clip that I anodized bronze to match the bronze screw and hardware set I picked up from Blades We Love on eBay. I've also heat anodized all of the standoffs, the lanyard tube, the button, and the blade stop to a bronze color for that little extra touch of matchy-matchiness. And the scales are from Alan Putnam, aka Blade Scales, and you can find him at bladescales.com. They were jade, the natural G10, kind of weird, transparent green groove scales that I decided to dye using Rit Dye's Emerald all-purpose liquid dye, and I am in love with the transparent emerald hue that I got out of it. One of my proudest dye jobs, for sure. It looks great right out of the box, it really does, but there are so many aftermarket goodies available that it was, to me at least, a crime not to make the Smock my own. Now then, let's move on to another piece here that separates the Smock from the rest of the Spidey pack, the action. This is a tie chung Spidey, so we're running on bearings paired with a compression lock. Yes, that's right, not a button lock, technically, a button-actuated compression lock. And let me tell you, this needs to become a thing, Spyderco. Please. Give me a button-actuated Yojimbo 2 or Canis. I will pay you with my life force. I will pay you with my very soul if you want it. Take it. It's yours. And right out of the box, the pairing of the button compression lock thingy and the buttery smooth bearings is a fidgeting match made in a fidgeter's heaven. Good fucking God. This thing blew my mind when it arrived on March 3rd of 2020. Yes, I'll never forget that day. It was the day I first handled a Spyderco that wasn't a Tenacious. That's right, I went straight from a Tenacious that I had been happily carrying for years to this. That's a big step. And now I make YouTube videos about knives. You do the math, that's how good the action is here. It wouldn't be a stretch to say this knife changed my life. And if you haven't been paying close attention, not only can you easily fidget your life away, like literally fidget your entire life away with thumb flicks and Spidey flicks, this thing has a flipper tab too. And I am in love with the way it has been done. When the knife is closed, it just sits perfectly flush with the handles. It's just a square chunk of S30V that fills out the closed profile perfectly, and when it's open, it disappears. Where does it go? I don't even fucking know. An alternate universe via wormhole travel? Your guess is as good as mine. It's basically a flipper that works flawlessly as a flipper, but somehow doesn't really have a flipper tab in the traditional sense. Some serious witchcraft, no doubt. So, wrapping up the action, we've got thumb flicks, Spidey flicks, and flipper flips. Flipper flips. All perfect, all endlessly reliable. And that long blade running on bearings is perfectly drop shot. It truly is, seriously, I cannot stress this enough, it truly is top 5 best fidget knives of all time. Maybe the very best fidget knife of all time. And that's why you see it on so many top 10, top 5 lists on YouTube, on Instagram, on Reddit, on the forums. The only thing that would be as good or better, ProTech, are you listening, would be a ProTech Malibu with a Spidey hole and or thumb studs. Let's get to work on that, boys. Huh? Chop chop. And once you've wrapped up your hour-long fidget session, and you go to cut something, that S30V hollow grind sheep's foot is barbershop, straight razor, sharp. Like, again, cannot stress this enough, top 3 sliceiest blades I've ever experienced. End of sentence, end of paragraph, fella, okay? Drop it. And this has been carried countless times over the past year, and that S30V has needed 1 or 2 strops, just little quickies. 2 strops in a year? S30V. I'm not bushcrafting with this thing, but it has gotten plenty of regular EDC use. And while you're slicing up everything you can get your hands on, because it is so endlessly satisfying, you will notice that the ergos, well, they're dynamite. The bottom of the handles are perfectly sculpted for the human hand, and whether you're choked up or you're gripping further back in the hands, it's a level of comfort on par with death grip squeezing a Beanie Baby. You know, use your imagination. Maybe the tiniest lukewarm spot from a pocket clip if you hold it further back on the handles, but other than that, it's a dream in the hand. And you've got this really open and spaced out and well done jipping on the top of the blade there, and that gives you all the grip you could need without, really ever being something you ever notice. Ergos here, excellent. Again, 4 to 5 gold stars, because we're in kindergarten again. Wrapping up this review is extremely difficult. Everything about this review has been extremely difficult because the knife's been around, and it's been praised by so many YouTube channels and reviewers that are miles and miles more popular than me. But I could still talk about the Smock for hours and hours. Nobody will listen to me, but I could talk about it. I'm just smitten over this thing. I bought it almost as soon as it was available through retailers, and it was at the time only the 5th knife in my very young collection, and the most expensive knife I had ever purchased by a long, long way. The pictures and reviews I had watched had grabbed me by the throat, threatening to choke me out completely if I didn't order one immediately, and if I'm being honest, I'm so glad I listened to the voices in my head and the imaginary hand around my throat. The action and top-tier fidgetability is, to this day, mind-alteringly excellent. The blade is an absolute slicing machine, and regardless of its full-size specs and measurements, it has never been a knife that I was afraid to use in public. I've used it at the post office, I've opened it up in fancy restaurants, I'm an insurance agent, I use it in my office all the time, you name it. Like, I loved it when it first arrived almost a year ago, but now that I've had it and I've made it my own and carried it for a year, I really love it. And it would not be too far a stretch to say I would happily make love to it. Don't judge me. So at $175, should you buy a Smock? Fucking yes! Christ, do it right now. Stop watching this video. Don't even bother subscribing to my channel. I don't care. Just go buy one of these right now. Do it. Borrow one, steal one. Well, don't steal one. It's so worth it that it fucking hurts my soul. Everyone needs this. Everyone deserves this in their pocket. So, until next time, thank you for watching. Bye-bye now.